Well, Professor Chukwumerije Okereke is one of Nigeria's foremost international climatologists. He's a globally recognized scholar on environmental policy and climate change, and is a UN scientist who served as co-director of the Center for Climate and Justice in the UK. He's also a member of the UN body known as the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, and he joins me now in the studio. Thank you very much indeed for taking the time to join us, because I know you're quite busy.
Thank you.
Is this UN warning of 3.1 degrees global warming a surprise?
Not at all. Since we published the last IPCC report, which shows already that the global average temperature was on record high, what we have seen, as the UN Secretary General pointed out, is a further increase in the rising green temperature to 1.3 degrees. When, according to the climate change models, the temperature is supposed to be falling by an average of a minimum of 9% year on year for us to stand any chance of meeting the Paris Agreement. So, in all intent and purposes, actually, the Paris Agreement is now in coma. It's in critical condition.
Right.
And unless something dramatic happens, I'm afraid that the window is closing very fast.
Well, let's talk about that closing window. What would be the implications for the planet if it was allowed to warm by 3.1 degrees?
Ooh, catastrophic is one of the words that I'm using. Already, we are seeing unprecedented degrees of flooding events, including here in the country. We're seeing also record-breaking average daily temperature. The highest since 1940 was recorded this year. We have seen at least 10 countries record an average temperature of about 50 degrees centigrade, and about 20 or so countries average temperature of over 40 degrees. We've seen a rise in extreme weather events, flooding, drought, and wildfire. People cannot afford it. We're already losing about 500,000 people daily to heat waves, and the number is projected to increase even further. The UN is clear that at 3.1 degrees, a vast proportion and portions of this world will be uninhabitable. So this is not what you want to happen.
No, absolutely not. It's a very scary thought. And of course, looking at a country like Nigeria and what it would mean, you've been doing quite a bit of work here on climate change, bringing your international expertise to bear. Tell us a bit about what you've been doing here.
Well, a number of things. Recently, we helped Nigeria to design what we call the Deep Decarbonization Project report, which shows the various pathways through which Nigeria can reduce its emission to meet the net zero target that President Buhari announced at COP26 in Glasgow. Now, it was okay to make that announcement. We salute the president, but we didn't actually quite have a plan to meet it. So my team at Okereke, funded by the AFD, have now put on table a deep decarbonization plan. The second thing that excites me that we've done, seeing that it is absolutely impossible for this country to meet its net zero without massive effort at the subnational levels. I have poured a lot of my energy and attention into catalyzing climate effort at the subnational level. And earlier this year, we released the first ever rating and ranking of the 36 states, showing how they perform in terms of their climate governance. Exactly. So, yeah. And
so how are they ranking then?
Well, we saw that only one state, which is Lagos State, has an outstanding performance on all the 5 criteria. But we also had Ebonyi State, Gombe State, Ekiti State, and a few others that are doing really well. But most of the states, many of them really need to do a lot more. Only about 9 states have climate change policy in the country. About 8 or so have robust climate implementation plan.
Well, how much does that worry you, given the scenario you just painted a minute ago?
I think that we have a country where we are sometimes making the right positive noises. But it seems to me there's still a dissonance between the kind of positive statement that we put out and the understanding of the action that is required to move the needle. I worry that sometimes we are playing to the gallery, making some announcement, trying to satisfy international bodies in terms of the documents we are producing, but not really prepared to roll up our sleeves to do the hard work. If you look at this country, for example, we see an incongruence. On the one hand, the country saying that they want to meet net zero, but on the other hand, they are pursuing as much they can investment in oil and gas. And it doesn't just meet. It doesn't square. We need to begin to understand that a lot of effort is required to turn the corner, and I'm worried that we are not understanding that.
Well, it doesn't help, does it, when you've got climate skepticism coming from some of the most powerful people in the world. I mean, if Donald Trump wins the American election, he's made it clear, I think in a speech yesterday, that he was going to frack, and that he was simply going to get on with, you know, all those dirty fuels that people like you have been complaining about.
Exactly so. But what I say to African leaders is be careful in following after Donald Trump. Because while Donald Trump is making those positive noises, we also have the IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act, that is promising trillions to catalyze and pump prime a lot of clean energy investments in the U.S. If you go with Donald Trump's kind of rhetoric and you fail to make massive investment in this country, don't be surprised that in 2024, 2040, 2050, when the oil prices will be low, because a number of other countries are making rapid effort.
Especially in Europe.
In Europe.
Yeah.
I mean, the UK just retired its last coal-fired power plant 2 weeks ago. When the oil prices plummet and you have nothing to sell, and you have no clean technologies to boost your energy production, you will be in a very dire strait. So it's dangerous to follow Trump.
That's a very timely warning. So are you hopeful that the right policies will be implemented across the globe to prevent this catastrophe that you and the UN Secretary General were talking about, the UN has been warning about?
We prefer in the UN to sound the warning, but also to keep the hope alive. Because optimism can be a very powerful platform for action. We have record investment in clean energy technology around the world. It's just that it's not happening fast enough to turn the tide.
I want to thank you very much indeed, and to also commend you for the work that you're doing here in Nigeria and beyond, because I know you've done a lot of work in the UK as well. Professor Chukwumerije Okereke is one of Nigeria's foremost international climatologists. He's a UN scientist and is a member of the UN body known as the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you for having me.